Welcome to Mid-Century Living, your weekly nostalgia podcast about the best of technology and culture from the mid-20th century.
Welcome back to Mid-Century Living, the show where we talk all about the best of the mid-20th century and how to add vintage vibes to your modern life. We're your hosts, Jackie
and Gonzalo. Thanks for joining us today. So since today's episode is the first episode being released in May, we are talking about the 1950s backyard. That's right, it's backyard season. Or almost, because Memorial Day is coming up. But before we get too far into it, Jackie, how was your week?
My week was great because last week was the week of halfway to Halloween. Depending on how you count, either April 30th or May 1st are 6 months from Halloween. Like April 30th is technically 6 months from Halloween, and then May 1st is the first starting the 6 months leading up to Halloween. So I like to celebrate on April 30th just because it's sooner, and I don't want to wait that extra day. So usually I just do something Halloween-y that day, but actually one of my favorite Halloween blogs, Spooky Little Halloween, did like a whole week-long challenge of like a little spooky thing you can do to celebrate all week, so I actually did that. If any of you followed me on Instagram, you saw it in my stories, but my big like half-a-ween evening tradition is I usually make like some sort of Halloween dinner and then we'll watch a horror movie. So this year I made mummy dogs, which is one of my favorite Halloween things to make because it's super easy and it's basically you just get crescent roll dough and you wrap it around a hot dog and then you bake it so it looks like a mummy and you make little mustard eyes.
I was going to say, did you make eyes?
Yeah, just my little dots of mustard.
What movie did you watch?
A Nightmare on Elm Street, which I'm embarrassed to say I had not seen until this week. I'm like, basically I'm making sure I've seen all of the required reading. So I got a list of like the essential Halloween movies by genre. And the only two slashers I'm missing are A Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th I've been dragging my feet on because I know the twist because I've seen Scream. And also, I listened to the recap on Too Scary Didn't Watch. So I already know everything that happens in it anyway, but I'll probably still watch it just to say that I did. But and I made a salad dressing out of pumpkin butter, which is something I keep meaning to do. Like, have you ever seen those recipes online for like last of the jam jar vinaigrette?
No, but I have like 17 jam jars at each of different varieties of quantity.
So like when you're down to like your last tablespoon or so in the jar, add oil and vinegar and just shake it. And now you have a vinaigrette for whatever your salad can be inspired by. So I made that on purpose with some pumpkin butter that I'd been squirreling away since last pumpkin season. So I made like a pumpkin-y salad dressing to go with our mummy dogs. It was really exciting.
Continuing food talk, though, question for you, because this has come up several times in our podcast. Do you still have the pumpkin Cheerios?
Yes. I am still working on last August's pumpkin Cheerios. I think I'm about halfway done.
That's not that bad. It's not been a year yet.
No, I think I'm about halfway done, which is right on schedule, because I usually finish it by the time the next one comes out. So now that we transitioned nicely into food chat, how was your week?
Good. I don't have anything interesting, really, because my life is boring because I'm a teacher. My life's not boring, actually. My life's like a lot of fun. But I buy my groceries on the weekend. And then I meal prep, and then every now and again I have to do a grocery run in midweek, which you think it's like, oh, I'm going to buy this one thing, and then you end up spending $175 midweek. But this week I was out of food. I had run out of like my meal prep food, and it was like Thursday night. And I was like, oh, what am I going to eat? I don't want to order out, and I don't want to go to the store because it's like 8:00 at night. I know it. I've got mayo and I got canned chicken, like tuna, but instead it was chicken, and a jar of olives with 3 olives in it.
That is the most bachelor dinner.
I just made chicken salad. It was actually really good.
Is that like what boy dinner must be? Like, you know how there's that like girl dinner thing where it's like you eat popcorn.
Oh, I also put some cheese on it.
Put cheese on it. Yeah, this is the most boy dinner thing I've ever heard.
No. Boy dinner is eating rotisserie chicken over the sink.
You have crackers or something you could round that meal out with, or were you just eating chicken salad out of a bowl with some olives?
Oh, I definitely had crackers then.
Because that's the thing.
No, I sat at the table.
Okay.
I mean, it was a coffee table, not the real table, but I didn't eat it over the sink.
No, that's not bad.
It was really good though. The olives were actually martini olives full of blue cheese.
Nice. Those are the best.
So I scaled it up a little bit.
That is good. That's hysterical.
You know where I could have eaten this though, because it was nice out. I could have eaten it in my backyard.
Excellent transition. A plus.
Yeah, because remember we're talking about 1950s backyards today. Do you use yours as entertaining space though?
Not yet, but I plan to. I'm working on it. So basically, we arrived to this house from an apartment, so we didn't have any patio furniture like when we moved in. And I'd been trying to figure out what like the vibe was going to be for a while, so I went through a lot of like design. Anyway, we just got a table, found the perfect table on Marketplace last fall. And then this spring, I finally bought cushions for it. Now we've eaten outside, but like that's phase one to having people over is like you need some place for them to sit. So that's
Yes.
phase one. And like phase two, I guess, is I need to find a matching umbrella.
No, so I have a very similar. So I moved into this house 70 billion years ago. It feels like, or 8 years. But anyway, my backyard is like plain old, like here's a 10 by 10 concrete slab, and that's it. But I do have a couple of chairs, and when I had a roommate, we would like sit out there and smoke cigars or whatever. But now it just kind of sits there. But we did have dinner there once in the fall because it was nice weather. And I do have a Traeger, which I will be using later today to meal prep.
Is that the smoker?
Yeah, it's a smoker. It's a wood pellet
Cool.
smoker. It's a brand name wood pellet smoker.
To properly introduce the topic today, we have a great line from an article from the April 1956 issue of Popular Mechanics. Quote, "From Maine to California and from Minnesota to Alabama, thousands of families are taking up outdoor living for many months of the year. Patios, eating areas, places for play and relaxation are transforming backyards throughout the nation." I love that. They really paint a word picture there.
Advertising in the mid-century was just so much better than it is now.
Agreed.
Yeah, but let's talk a little bit about history. So let me put on my history hat. Because pretty much in the USA, since the creation of land ownership, it would seem, backyards have been part of the American citizens' land, right? But not always the recreational, relaxing space that Popular Mechanics is describing. For most of the 19th century, the backyard was just that, the yard at the back of the main living structure of the land. Some of the uses back in the 19th century were workspace or containing utilities or materials needed for the family. Really, in the mid to late 1800s, the backyard was fenced in. It's just part of the property, but it contained things like barns, other structures that were not part of the main house. Things like an outhouse, because remember, indoor plumbing was not common until the 1930s, as well as a family's trash heap, probably as far away from the main house as possible, because of smells, right, was held in the backyard. The backyard usually also was filled with odors that made it less than attractive for relaxing, right? Some other possible uses could be vegetable garden or land for cultivating crops, space for animals, right? Chickens for eggs and meat, pigs as garbage disposals because they eat everything, and even cows for milk. So basically, the backyard pre-World War II was not a fun and relaxing space. It was utilitarian. You were only there if you needed to be. You could do your laundry, you have your workshops, gardening and tending for sustaining life. Pretty much it. But the front of the house was a little bit better, right? The front of the house gained the front porch following the Civil War, and it remained popular through the end of the 1800s and into the 1900s. People used to only consider what their views from the inside of the home were, but the point of view shifted to how people saw your house from the street. The front porch became a comfortable spot for a summer evening where the whole family could relax after dinner, or maybe a neighbor walking by could hear the family's news or engage in a little bit of neighbor-to-neighbor gossip.
Cute.
But as the radio became a nightly activity, so now we're moving into the mid-century, families moved indoors after dinner, meaning that the porch at the front was not necessary or as necessary as before, and so architecture began to shift. The front porch became a sun or side porch or terrace, sometimes a sunroom on the side of the house. But the backyard was still not a place of relaxation and outdoor activities that it became. Garages were placed in the back of the home, far from the house, because people were afraid that their cars would just explode.
What?
Yes. Well, I mean, think about it. Gasoline is new, right? A new thing. People don't really know how cars work apart from like what they see in the street. So like, it
That's
makes
wild.
sense.
That's why garages were detached because they thought their
Yeah,
cars would explode.
exactly.
Wow.
And I'm sure at some point a car or two cars must have caught fire from improper care. But yeah, people were afraid that their cars were going to blow up. So they're like, let's put this far away from the
Oh
house.
boy. Well, I love that fun fact. But that does bring us to the mid-century. The layout of the residential lot shifted when they realized the cars were not going to just suddenly explode and they started putting garages in the front of the house and other technological advances. The back of the house became a usable space. Sanitary sewers became popular in the mid-century and outhouses finally started disappearing. The backyard once again shifted from a utilitarian space to an extension of the house where activities could take place. Better knowledge of gasoline engines and use of cars allowed the garage to become part of the house, so we have the attached garage. This has also created one very important aspect of the backyard, a physical separation between the street and the back. Basically, the house and garage would take up the whole width of the lot, creating basically a wall between the street and the backyard. So by the 1950s, the USA was emerging from the shadow of World War II, looking for new ways to find peace. Home ownership boomed thanks to the GI Bill and a growing middle class. As people returned to civilian life post war, they returned to normalcy and the 40-hour work week. This allowed for more time to spend with the family and more disposable income for leisure items such as things in the backyard. More affordable housing construction methods allowed for more suburbs and the creation of the ranch style house, which really needs its own episode, so stay tuned. The DIY craze, which, by the way, we've also done an episode of, we'll link that in the show notes, added to the need for more space for fixing what we had. The ranch house with outdoor courtyards, sliding glass doors, and open floor plans was considered the post war dream home, and its features were copied all over the country. So, steel was a very common backyard furniture material. After all, many factories have spent years producing ammo and other war products during World War II and were retooled for consumer goods. Steel presses into machines that produce goods for the home, including popular backyard items. But steel requires maintenance so that it doesn't rust, so then aluminum and plastic take over instead. Aluminum became so common that we even had fully aluminum umbrellas for tables. Like, the umbrella itself was not fabric, but rather just aluminum sections. I feel like I've seen these, like, outside custard shops. Like, it.
I was just gonna say, if you remember Ritter's, they had those.
Yeah, I think, like, In-N-Out has them too.
Yeah, but I think the difference is that In-N-Out, I'm pretty sure, are newly made to look like mid-century, and Ritter's is probably just mid-century. Which,
Just
by the
actual
way,
mid-century.
sorry to tangent, but this is important for everyone out there. You remember Ritter's,
Mhm.
right? Ritter's was a frozen custard place near where we grew up, and it was the only one there. It's a franchise.
Really?
Yes.
Like a national franchise or a Texas
No,
franchise?
like I don't know how many there are in Texas. I don't think many, but they're a franchise. Like people out in North in Michigan have Ritter's frozen custards,
Oh, that's nice.
and I had no idea.
Aw.
Also, I had some friends over a couple of weeks ago, probably a couple months ago actually, but now we had like our college get together. Anyway, at one point, one of my friends was like, "Oh, I really want ice cream." And I go, "Well, it's a frozen custard place." And he's like, "What's frozen custard?" And I go, "It's like ice cream, but
What's
it's egg
frozen
based. It's
custard?
delicious. Trust me, you'll love it." And he goes, "I don't know," but we convinced him to go. So we go. He loved the frozen custard, and then like literally this week, he messaged me. He goes, "You got me messed up. Now I can't stop eating frozen custard." So Bobby, if you can hear this, go get yourself some
Thinking
Ritters.
of you while we're thinking about these aluminum umbrellas.
But anyway, back onto the backyard. So this takeover of the backyard space led to some new trends, and more importantly, some must-haves in the backyard. So here we have a short list of trends, games, decor, and other items that populated the 1950s backyard. Jackie, why don't you start us off?
Lawn care in the 1950s was heavily influenced by the rise of suburbanization and the desire for the American dream of a perfect manicured lawn. Also running on the coattails of World War II nationalism, having a clean and pristine lawn was seen as doing your civic duty, a sign of good citizenship and community pride. In
Yeah.
1953, Briggs and Stratton created the lightweight aluminum engine for the mower. This spurred the craze in powered push mowers before the mechanical rotary was the only way to mow your lawn.
I have both. I have the Briggs & Stratton engine, which I don't mow my own lawn. Someone does it for me. I also have one of the push ones that's got a little wheel that you push and like the knife's move and it makes the Edward Scissorhands noise.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I mean, I like the idea of it not needing gas, but it sounds difficult.
I bought it when I bought the house because I was like, I'm gonna mow the lawn, and in the movies, in movies from the USA, people have a house with a lawn and a black little mailbox with a little red flag on it, and they mow the lawns with this
Yeah.
little machine. So whenever I bought my house, I go, okay, two things I have to have: that lawnmower and the little letterbox, and I have the letterbox.
And the lawnmower. Yeah, you have to go out in your t-shirt and jeans and then drink lemonade when you're done.
Yeah, but I don't because I get about 2 feet into mowing with that thing, and I go, oh, sorry, I can't say that word. I go, I go, no.
Just picturing you like leaving the lawnmower in the grass and storming back into the house and calling some lawn guy, like just calling a servant.
That's pretty much what happened.
So back to the outline, or back to the episode. Other advances, such as a shift in focus from agricultural grass to residential grass, made lawns easier to maintain and more appealing to look at. Brooks Pennington Jr., the founder of Pennington's Seed, started focusing on grass seed for lawns and turf instead of agriculture. Chemical companies began recommending grass seeds that they said were superior to other grasses, but required a number of chemical fertilizers and insecticides to keep the grass looking good. There were also a long list of different chemicals advertised to spray on garden pests. But other than lawns, flowers started becoming a thing, so back in the 1950s, people planted flowers that were large, showy, and bright in color. Popular flowers of the day were dahlias, roses, geraniums, daylilies, and rain lilies.
I've got zero idea what any of those look like.
So I actually did a little research when we first moved into the house because I wanted to try to put like period accurate like 1950s 60s flowers in front of the house because our house was built in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
But then I kind of learned from reading that you can't just plant whatever you want in Texas. You really have to plant native stuff or it's just going to die
Yeah, you gotta plant what
immediately.
Texas wants.
But anyway, the popular 1950s flowers complemented the bright patio furniture of the day and also created a stunning contrast against the green backdrop of the lawn. The downside to this mid-century focus is, of course, garden chemicals tend to be less friendly to the environment. Large tracts of grass required much more watering than mixed planted gardens, and more than natural gardening would. More sterile grass instead of natural vegetation also led to lower wildlife, like bugs, or small animals like butterflies and birds. And without a space outside, where do you think the bugs ended up? That's right, inside.
Yes, and I don't want them inside. Let them stay outside. Make better vegetation for the bugs. I speak for the bugs. As the backyard became landscaped and more attractive, people started to hang out there more, and of course, using it to entertain and more importantly, to cook. So, one of the most recognizable backyard must haves back in the 1950s and still today is a charcoal grill. And I know if you close your eyes and you're probably picturing a round, maybe kind of egg-shaped black metal grill on wheels. On wheels. Well, that would be the Weber grill. So Weber Grill actually dates back to a Chicago company named the Weber Brothers Metal Works, founded in 1887. And then in the 1950s, a man named George Stevens Sr. took over the company. Ever the inventor, he often worked on fabricating and selling innovative products, including mailboxes and fireplace equipment, but none took off. Stephen and his family, and I mean, talking about family, he had 12 kids, enjoyed eating food cooked on the grill. Back then, the popular model was an open top metal box with a grid on top, and the coals went in the box, and the grid held the food. So the problems included that it was open to weather, so meat was open to the elements, winds could blow ash around, and smoke often just hung around on the face of the cooks, which, if anybody here has ever been near a fire, that's really annoying. In 1952, the Weber Company was producing metal buoys for the Coast Guard and the Chicago Yacht Club. So Stephen, frustrated by ruined meals, took two halves of the spheres that make the buoys home and tried to use that as a grill. And the grill went out because there was no air in it. And that's when a neighbor chimed in and told him to punch some holes on the top, which he did, and boom shakalaka, the grill was born. Anyway, some of the pros of the Weber grill is that it's an enclosed dome shape that's sealed, so it seals in the smoky barbecue flavors, and the backyard chefs gain better heat control while cooking their meals. The lid also allowed backyard cooks to easily snuff out the coals when they were done cooking and prevented barbecues from filling up with water. Because the little holes on the top have a little like
Oh,
door thingy. It's like a circle, right? So the holes are there, and then the circle of metal has holes in it. So like if the holes align, then there's ventilation, and if you slide it to the left or right, then the
that's
holes close.
genius.
Yeah. Originally, the claim from Weber was that the round shape was better at cooking and retaining heat, but this has since been busted as a myth. There's no proof that circle heats food better than a square, and after all, the ovens at the house are square, so myth busted. No, yeah, myth busted. Originally, the Weber grill sold for $29.95, which is an equivalent to $270
Oof.
today. Today, you can purchase said Weber grill for between $99 and $220, depending on the model, because now they've gone fancy.
So, grill talk. I love the taste of charcoal grill meats, and I love the
Me
aesthetic
too.
of the Weber grill. However, it being super hot in Texas, you don't really want to hang out next to fire that long.
Mm-hmm.
So the propane grill is faster, but we had a propane grill for a while, then a tree fell on it. Long story. But I have never replaced it because I was thinking when we got it that like the food never tasted grilled.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we still have the propane tank, so it like makes sense that we should just get another propane grill since we have the tanks. But like, I don't know. What do you think? What grill should I buy?
So I don't know when propane grills became a thing to see if it's period accurate to your house. I can't see your backyard without a Weber grill.
Right?
And because Weber grills are typically not that big, right? And if you're just cooking for you and boyfriend, is so just 2 servings of food in it, you don't need that much fire. So it wouldn't be too difficult, or not too difficult, too annoying, I guess you'd say, to be around the fire. That also, charcoal fired foods, I guess, do taste better than propane. So my suggestion, and we're not sponsored by Weber at all, although Weber, if you're listening,
we're open to
throw some cash our way.
we're open to sponsorship opportunities, so give us a call.
Yeah, but I would say get a Weber grill. I think it works with the aesthetic. It tastes good. They are long lasting, obviously. I mean, they started in the mid-century, and you can still go purchase a brand new one
and
today.
there's nothing in it that'll break. Like,
yeah, they're simple, and they're like small enough that like and they have little wheels on it. So like if you are worried about it getting damaged with the rain, or like maybe when it's no longer season for being outside, like July and August, you can like wheel it into the garage or something. Oh, or you can buy a little shed.
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards also.
All that being said, I don't have a charcoal.
You just have a smoker?
I wish I did. I just have my Traeger, yeah.
But anyway, speaking of the aesthetic of your backyard, backyards do need decorating. So if you close your eyes and think of a 50s backyard, I bet you're thinking about pink flamingo lawn ornaments. So this was a common lawn ornament designed by American artist Don Featherstone in 1957. The company Union Products produced the flamingo until 2006, at which point HMC International LLC purchased the copyright and rights for producing the flamingo, and since 2010, they've been producing it. So, in the media and fiction, plastic flamingos are often used as a symbol of kitsch, bad taste, and cheapness. Excuse me. The movie Pink Flamingos is named after them and helped them become an icon of trash and kitsch.
I figured you would love that.
I think they're kitschy and cute, but yeah, they're a little... I mean, you do see them, I feel like, outside a lot of trailers. So.
I've never seen one in the wild. The only... But I will say, in pictures, they're always like mid-century, and they're not bad taste. They're just like mid-century symbol. Mm-hmm. The only time I've seen them in, quote, bad taste would be in the original Sims. When it was in front of one of the houses, and it was not like a fancy house, and that's it.
You know, bad taste is so subjective. It's just if you don't like it and someone else does it, that's bad taste. So, whatever.
That's true.
I think they're adorable. 1972, the film Pink Flamingos was released and became known as an abomination and an instant classic.
I want to see this.
The movie has almost nothing to do with the tropical fowl that stands sentinel during the opening credits. The plot mostly concerns the exertions of a brazen and voluptuous drag queen intent on preserving her status as the filthiest person alive. I don't think this is why they're famous, but I hope that's why it stayed famous.
Yeah.
Fun fact, the first flamingo was actually named Diego.
Yeah.
And the pink flamingo design won Featherstone the Ig Nobel Prize in 1996.
Yeah, so the Ig Nobel is like the opposite of a Nobel Peace Prize or Nobel Prize.
Is it like the Darwin Awards? Like it's like a fake prize? Well, I think they're cute. And if anyone else thinks they're cute, let us know in the comments.
I'm not gonna lie, I would totally have one.
I'm 1000% getting at least 4 when we move to Florida, if we ever move to Florida.
I feel like you should put one in front of your house now.
I don't know if it'll match.
But anyway,
back to the backyard.
Because I'm in the front right now talking about that. This is not a front of the house podcast. It's a backyard podcast. Anyway, the mid-century also gave us some fun games for the backyard, and yes, of course, it gave us some death traps as well. Sometimes these are both the same item, and of course, we're talking about lawn darts, also known as jarts.
You know them, you love them. We're talking about jarts.
Yes, we're talking about deadly weapons that kids were playing with.
I cannot believe this stuff existed.
So the game was developed in the mid-20th, in which weighted spikes were tossed into the air with the hopes of landing them in plastic circles placed some paces away. So meaning that this game kind of resembles cornhole or horseshoes, just with a sharp dart instead of the safe bean-filled bag. They were insanely popular in the 1950s when they sold for likely between $3 and $5, which should be about $25 to $40 today. However, this information is not 100% accurate, as it was very quickly banned. And even reselling this product is illegal under the Hazardous Products Act. So the darts were typically about 12 inches or 30 centimeters in length, with a weighted metal or plastic tip on one end and 3 plastic fins on the other end, and it is intended to be thrown underhand. The roots of lawn darts can actually date back to the ancient Greece and ancient Rome in a game called plumbata, consisting of weighted spikes thrown from a distance and aiming for something soft on which to land. Though let's face it was not grass for the Romans. In 1988, however, past our podcast, the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission banned them in the USA, and they were even banned in Canada as well. The ban had to be reissued in 1997 as people were still using the game. At this time, the government urged the public to destroy the game. Now, on a serious note, David Snow was an advocate for banning the game in the late 1980s, and this was because his 7-year-old daughter Michelle was killed in a dart accident in which one of her brother's friends threw a dart, and the dart hit Michelle and penetrated her skull. Yeah. Which I can't even imagine the poor friend, like
anyone
the whole
involved
family.
In that. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I don't know how they invented this game and they didn't think people were going to throw them at each other.
Well, the thing is, I don't think in this situation it was thrown at her. I think the guys were playing, and then 7-year-old likes to run around as she should because she's a child, and she just ran into the wrong path of the thing.
Yeah, you're right. It probably was an accident.
I don't think it was malicious. I just think it was an accident. But from 1980 to 1988, 6,100 American citizens visited ERs for lawn dart-related injuries.
Yep.
So.
But anyway, moving on to something nicer. Gonzalo, do you have a pool in your backyard?
I do not. When I bought this house, I actually put an offer on another house, which I liked a little bit more in the layout, and that one had a pool. And I was really excited. I was like, I'm going to have a pool. I don't know why. I would have hated it because of all the maintenance.
Yeah, it's really high maintenance.
And now looking back, also that house, the kitchen was not very nice. Like the bedrooms were really great and they had really nice closets. But the kitchen was very small. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about pools. And no, I don't have a pool.
Well, even back then, if you had a pool, you were definitely in the top tax bracket. Pools were for movie stars and millionaires, not for the everyday American citizen returning from war, although that was the dream. Above-ground pools were not necessarily from the mid-century because as far back as the late 1920s, we have attempts made at construction of portable above-ground pools, but they were very crude. They were heavy canvas supported by wooden barrels or steel trusses. By the 1940s, we see some manufacturers creating pools and experimenting with new materials such as masonite, steel, and aluminum framing. Liners also changed from canvas to treated synthetic fabrics. These early pools lacked circulation systems and had to be refilled as needed to keep the water fresh. But in the 1950s, new players enter the industry and pool technology skyrockets. Epoxy coated steel walls supported by galvanized steel or extruded aluminum frames hold up the above ground pools. They often had some sort of wide top rail, about 2 inches in the 1950s and 1960s, and the pool lining shifted to vinyl, which was designed to withstand harsh weather so pools could be set up year round even if they weren't used year round. Home pool equipment and Lomart tool pool manufacturers of the mid 20th century provided a package with a filter system by 1958, and soon this became the norm with the heavy duty sand and gravel filters.
I don't like above ground pools.
You can build a deck around an above ground pool. Since we're coming close to the connection to today's section, a trend I've been seeing on the Instagrams lately, not lately really, but like in the past couple of years. Have you seen people are making pools out of stock tanks?
Stock tanks.
Like cattle metal steel stock tanks. You can like put chlorine and a filter on them and like build a little deck around it and make your own little like 4 foot tall above ground pool in your backyard out of a little stock tank for like smaller backyards or people on a budget.
I wouldn't mind having a little water feature in my backyard once my backyard becomes, nice enough to entertain in.
Yes.
Pools continue to be a symbol of having made it today. So, what better way to transition into the backyard today than pools?
Yes, the iconic American Dream style house with a backyard that includes a span of grassy open space, flower beds, a small deck or seating area, and a grill is still one of the most popular garden styles in North America today. It is still seen as a symbol of having made it or achieving the American dream. The movement to outdoor living in the past 20 years has brought the proliferation of decks and paved terraces to the backyard. Today, many families spend time in new outdoor living rooms, relaxing on lounge chairs, cooking over a separate outdoor grill, shaded by canopies and roofs.
Yes, landscaping changed in the 1950s and remains a key component of backyard today. The consumer culture of the mid-century set the stage for modern backyard landscaping. Today, it is easy for homeowners to keep a highly manicured lawn thanks to technology such as the lawn spreader and powered lawnmowers, which were developed in the 1950s. New housing does not ignore the backyard space. Instead, it makes it a center of design, a central hub for entertaining. Houses often come prepared with either a back porch or at least a slab that allows a blank slate for new homeowners to develop their own style. Landscaping boomed in the early 2000s in a move to keep pushing that, quote, keeping up with the Jones mentality. People wanted to improve their backyard and be better than their neighbors or to increase curb appeal. By 2007, the landscaping industry reached approximately $25 billion, according to the Professional Lawn Care Associations of America, which is a thing. Though in 2008, like everything, this industry declined. It rebounded, and 10 years later, in 2018, it had reached an annual revenues of $93 billion. Many people nowadays, though, are trying to be more sustainable, and we are seeing a return to some of the uses of the backyard prior to the mid-century. Chickens are much more popular. Many people today are opting to raise chickens, turning their backyards into usable farmland by incorporating chicken coops. Many local ordinances allow for chickens, although usually not a rooster. Though away from roosters and back into today's more sustainable push, laundry drying space outside is a trend that's slowly coming back as eco-friendly alternative to those energy-consuming dryers. People are opting to hang dry clothes, especially delicate items. And the reasoning for this return is the decrease in energy use, although most dryers today are Energy Star, but also an all around return to simpler times. And people think that there's less chemicals, which I don't know, that probably is. I use dryer sheets. Do those have chemicals in them?
Probably. I use them too, but I actually do hang dry a lot of the stuff that, like, that's something that I've learned is that if you buy some, like, modern clothes that say dry clean only, depending on the fabric content, you can actually get away with washing them on delicate and hanging them to dry instead of actually going to, like, do dry cleaning. So I have a laundry rack that's, like, collapsible that I, like, put outside and I hang stuff. And then I bring it back inside. But I always thought it would be kind of cute if I had, like, an actual clothesline back there. But
So I realize research says that this is like a push to like the pre 20th century, but dryers are not at least when we live in Argentina, and today still okay. Dryers are not really a thing in Argentina.
No.
Like electrical. I'm gonna plug it in and put my clothes in dryer. We have washers, and then typically we have a separate. Sometimes I guess newer models are all incorporated, but the one that we had when we lived there, and that my grandparents had, is a separate thing that centrifuges the clothes. So like the spin cycle essentially that pushes all the water out of the clothes is a separate machine. But that's it. That's the only thing you get. So people dry their clothes hanging.
Mm-hmm.
So like in the areas where my grandparents live, which was I get it more rural than urban, they had like these rotating square hanging things that had like the square was maybe I don't know 4 feet by 4 feet, and there were like 3 lines there on each side. So like it would get to and you can like spin it and like hang your clothes there. And I have one in my garage
Cool.
that was actually part of my parents' laundry room back in our house in Argentina that has made its way through all our countries and now lives in my garage.
I love that. I mean, it's better for your clothes too, in addition to just being like energy saving, because it's not the washing machine that kills your clothes; it's the dryer that kills your clothes. So, if you want your stuff to last longer, hang it to dry. Or if you want your jeans to last longer, don't wash them at all. But anyway, more on that later.
That is a mid-century living top tip.
So this trend to returning to the pre-World War II use of the backyard is pushed by the movement to be more sustainable. Today's backyard continues to be about creating sustainable outdoor spaces and incorporating green practices in the care and upkeep of landscape. Some other trends in backyards are using native plants to reduce watering needs and maintenance, creating gardens that draw in wildlife, using plants that have continuous bloom throughout the year, container gardening, especially popular with those living in the city and small spaces or trying to grow some herbs for the first time ever. They're doing all right. Thanks for asking. And heirloom gardens.
And lastly, the Smithsonian Institution Traveling Exhibition Service, which is a thing, in 2018 had an exhibition that shed new light on how some Americans came to claiming the backyard as their private domain. It was titled Patios, Pools, and the Invention of the American Backyard, and I'm very sad that it's not touring because that would have been a great exhibition to go see.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
But now that we are caught up to the present with a traveling exhibit from 7 years ago, it's time for our etiquette segment. Jackie, what do we have today?
So today's etiquette segment is a little different because it is inspired specifically, well, not even inspired by. So I was on Facebook the other day and they served me an article from Vogue about cocktail attire right now. Like, basically, it was, here's a cocktail hour dress code. And I was like, well, I'm intrigued. What are they saying that cocktail attire is these days? Because I spend all my life dressing how cocktail attire was those days. So I thought it would be fun to compare and contrast cocktail attire from the mid-century to now that I know what cocktail attire now is. So,
okay.
First, let's start with the mid-century, or really, let's actually just start with like the definition of cocktail attire. So this is apparently a semi-formal style of dress, typically worn during the early evening or late afternoon occasions, and it became popular in the mid-century because it became the norm for women to host parties between the hours of 6 p.m. and 8 p.m., which is that the perfect length of a party? I'm not sure.
2 hours.
2 hours, get in, get out. Christian Dior was actually the first person to name an early evening dress a cocktail dress in the late 1940s. So in the 1950s, cocktail dresses were often mid-calf length and made of fabrics such as black taffeta, satin, and chiffon. Men wore suits and ties to all occasions, but they did not wear vests to semi-formal events. In the 1940s, men's semi-formal jackets had a natural shoulder, long jacket, loose 1 or 2 button closure, and lighter materials. And then that fit continued into the 1950s, but it got an even wider shoulder, a more straight-fitting jacket, and high-waist trousers. In the 1960s, mod styles dominated cocktail dressing. Along with dresses, it became acceptable for women to wear either a dressy suit or a jumpsuit to cocktail parties. But men still wore suits, still no vests, but with the slimmer 1960s tailoring. And in the 60s, men also had the option to wear more casual printed suits and sport coats for cocktail parties. So that's, in my head, when I close my eyes and think of cocktail attire, that's what I assume cocktail attire is. But what is cocktail attire now? So, apparently today's etiquette is The article starts with saying, while you can undoubtedly wear trousers, do not wear denim. If you're wearing
Understood.
pants, pair them with a dressier silk top or one that has a more sophisticated silhouette than a basic t-shirt. So basically, you have, like, even if you're wearing a shirt and pants, you have to look as far apart from a t-shirt and jeans as possible, which I do appreciate. When it comes to dresses, the length can depend on the style. A long or midi dress is appropriate with sleeker silhouettes. A shorter dress could also work, but keep the occasion in mind when choosing the length. So that's women.
Okay.
Men, cocktail attire offers some leniency when it comes to suiting. Collared shirts or ties aren't required, and tops can be used as a statement part of the look, like a pop of color or a pattern. In some cases, a suit could be worn with a t-shirt.
No.
I know, I made that same face. A general rule with cocktail attire at a wedding is that if the groom is wearing a jacket, then the cocktail attire for men at that event is to also wear a jacket.
I have thoughts.
Right? Okay, let's hear your thoughts.
First of all, never wear a suit with a t-shirt. Second of all, never wear a suit with a polo. If you're wearing a suit, you're wearing a suit. Button down. Ties? Sure. If you don't want to wear a tie, I don't understand you. But go for it. Go crazy. Go nuts. Just make sure that you wear one of those like colored shirts that don't have a widespread French type color, because it looks weird without a tie, because it's like really open. I don't have enough in me to say how much a t-shirt with a suit, just no.
So that's why I got so incensed and started researching to make sure I was right. So, like, not wearing jeans is nice, but, like,
Yeah.
pants and a silk top, to me, this is business casual. This isn't cocktail party.
Correct.
Like, I feel like if you're going to a cocktail party, you should be fancier than what you wore to work, but not as fancy as, like, the opera or a wedding.
Yeah, you're not going to an event that requires you to wear a tuxedo.
Right. But you want to be more elevated looking than what you wore to work that day.
Exactly.
So I like them, like me going back to see like what did people wear back then? I do remember like seeing some like cocktail jumpsuits in the 60s and 70s to cocktail. I don't know. But anyway. So I do think they tried to save the women's with saying like keep the occasion in mind when you're choosing your dress length.
Yeah, and by that term, they did say that if it's a wedding cocktail hour, the groom's wearing a jacket, you should be wearing a jacket, which is a rule for weddings. If the groom is fancy, you should be fancy too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But like, I'm thinking of like, I don't know, like invitations to like holiday parties or typically are cocktail attire. Like, yeah, be a little dressy. It's an event. You're going to a cocktail party.
Mm-hmm.
When else are you gonna be a little dressy? You're not gonna be dressy to go to the grocery store. So apparently I have very strong feelings about this that I didn't realize I had.
And that is why I felt like that's it. It's going in the etiquette segment.
Yes, no, I love it. It's great. I, however, think that we should not approve today's, but we should give the stamp of approval to the mid-century cocktail attire.
I agree. If we're doing a would you rather, it's definitely mid-century cocktail attire. I think should still be the standard cocktail attire.
I think so too.
Great. Glad we
Good.
agree. Good.
Okay, so
so that's settled.
With
then.
that, it looks like we have landed the pink flamingo into the backyard, or landed the lawn dart into the plastic hoop. Yes. Without killing anyone.
Without killing anyone. Oh boy.
So thank you guys for listening today. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the show and tell a friend.
You can also follow us on YouTube and Instagram at MCL Podcast. Instagram is the best place to send us feedback and episode suggestions, so send us a DM anytime. You can also contact us through the Send Us a Text Message feature in our show notes.
Yeah, so send us some fan mail. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Bye!
Thank you for listening to Mid-Century Living. Please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave a review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at MCL Podcast. See you next Friday.